So growth is a choice. Why now? Why this presentation? I originally did this presentation back in February for our AMIN conference. AMIN is a group of agency owners and founders worldwide. And the board asked me to do a presentation on growth and how StrategiQ have, in some cases, bucked the trend and driven growth within the agency. So I came up with this presentation and delivered the presentation. It was received really well, and then got asked to present it again. So it sort of turned into a bit of a roadshow. And I thought, well, why, rather than go around the country or around the world presenting the presentation, why not video it? Why not put it out there to the wider audience? So I'm not too sure how it's going to transpose onto a video in this format when it's more of a presentation to a group of people. But we're going to try it, and we're going to see how it flows, because the message that sits behind it is really important. And hopefully for those watching, there'll be some sort of key takeaways that you can take into your business, you can take into your potentially your life. I mean, the concept is it can affect how we open up our day and how we run our businesses, but also there's some life lessons in here that we might be able to take away. So hopefully this works. Bear with me if some of the slides and the transitions are kind of more collaborative, and I might need to skip over some stuff, but I'm sure there'll be some basic, hopefully some key takeaways. So I'm going to get into it. We start with a headline, which is growth is a choice. And where this came from was the board saying, Andy, you always seem to have a solution. You always seem to be pushing stuff forward. You always seem to be looking for the next thing. Where on earth does this come from? Where do you find the energy? And there are some sort of basic principles I guess I've learned. There's some basic principles which I apply on a day-to-day basis to me personally and to me and within the organisation. So let's kick it off. And I guess the first question is growth a choice? And there are lots of businesses at the moment we're working with or we talk to, and there's lots of business owners at the moment that may argue the fact that some of the experiences they're having, whether that's market forces, macroeconomic effects on their business, supply and demand, and all the things that affect whether or not businesses are growing, is truly down to the choices that we make an individual. Now, I'm gonna be delicate with how I handle that, but obviously I have an opinion, and that opinion is we choose how our businesses are growing, how our businesses are developing. Where that came from was a lesson. About 6 months ago, actually, let's go back to the key dates. January at StrategiQ was our most successful revenue month of all time. And we've been trading, for those of you who don't know, we've been trading for 11 years, or coming up to 11 years. So in what has supposedly been some of the toughest economic times, StrategiQ in January had, as I said, the most successful month. And also in business, a lot of people say January, especially in the marketing world, January is a really quiet month because not a lot happens in December. So therefore, you're trying to play catch up. So normally February, March and April are the months that really sort of you build momentum up. So where did January come from? And I looked at our revenue, and I looked at where our growth came from. And it came from two particular client wins. One was a significant branding project, and one was off the back of a branding project, there was a significant web development project as well, which also included a lot of video work as well. So we had this really big client win that came in January, and I went back to where did that order come from? How did we win that particular client? And we are part of the Drum network. I'm sure the Drum will love the plug there. Part of the Drum Recommends platform. And in September, the way that Drum Recommend platform works for us is the testimonials you receive on the drum only last for 12 months. So you have to keep refreshing them. And at that point, we had a lot of red testimonials that were about to drop off around about August, September and October. So I got a bit precious about it with my marketing team in September, and I was pushing. So I said, look, I want 5 new testimonials, go to our clients, go to our most recent successes and get these testimonials on our website or on the Drum Recommends. After a week, nothing happened. We wrote to a load of clients, they're busy, they didn't come back to us. After 2 weeks, we had 1 out of the 12 that we targeted. And it felt like hard work. And my marketing team were coming back saying, it's not working, we can't get them, you know, the clients are just busy, and I said, it's not good enough, we need to get it. Give me the telephone numbers of the clients, let's pick the phone up. And the last week, I set a deadline, the last week was really hard work. However, at 4 o'clock on the Friday, we finally got the last testimonial on over the line. Took 3 weeks, lots of emails, lots of phone calls, but I became a little bit obsessed about it. In November, we had a lead from a client that had found us on the Drum Recommend. And the reason they chose us was because we'd worked with a similar business in a similar organisation, and the CMO had knowledge of the business that had given us a testimonial, which meant that we got the RFP sent through in November. What transpired is the last testimonial that went on the last day of the month for when I set the target was that business. At 1 minute to 4 o'clock, the last client that sent their testimonial on was the one that convinced that the company that was looking for a company that could apply a similar service. So if you put that long story together, our best ever month was underpinned by one of our biggest orders. Our biggest order came from the activity that we were doing 6 months previous. And also me and our marketing team obsessing from the last testimonial that went on to the Drum Recommends. And I believe that had that particular business not have seen that particular testimonial on the day that they checked our Drum Recommend profile, we wouldn't have had the RFP. The RFP wouldn't have opened opportunity for us to pitch, and we wouldn't have closed a deal in January that drove our business forward. And for me, that underpins what this presentation is all about. It's the day-to-day activity that drives our growth. It's the little things you obsess over that were 6 months previous that underpins where your business is now. So if you're watching this now thinking, I can't see a trajectory, our business is not winning to the level that I want and need it to, it's not performing in the way that I want and need it to, that may be because 6 months ago you weren't obsessing over the right things. So the positive story here is what you start obsessing over off the back of watching this this quick video today or this presentation today may influence where your business is in 6 months. So let's put that as the kind of underpinning message. So let's get into the presentation. You know, growth is a choice, or is it? What I want to cover, and if I had an overarching objective with the presentation, is I'd like it to inspire you as the viewers. I was going to say audience then, but you as the viewers to be even more ambitious with your growth plans, and push. And expect more of yourself, expect more of your business, expect more of your team. But let's set the plans to set us up for growth, and let's believe that growth is a choice. So there's a few agenda points to run through within that. So why me? Why am I qualified to have this conversation with you? And there's an expectation or a realization that 50% of what I do probably negatively affects our growth, but 50% what I do positively affects the growth. So it does come from a humble place, but I guess an experienced place of driving a high growth and a high performing agency. Why now? Why is the conversation important to have now? We'll talk around that. I talk to a lot of businesses, and I've done various presentations around what I call the perfect storm. So I'm going to touch on that as part of the presentation. We're going to talk around how to set organisational goals, and some of those might spin into personal goals. And top level, some sort of tips and some takeaways. So that will come together hopefully quite nicely at the end of the presentation. Traditionally, if this was a presentation, there'd be a Q&A. So I guess that can happen in some of the comments and links, and I'd happily engage or jump on calls or have direct messages for anyone that feels like they want to kind of dig into any of the subjects that I talk about today. So happy to engage, although this is quite of a different way of recording a presentation. So as part of this presentation, I'm going to show a video that we, or my video team completed at our 10-year anniversary, which is around about September last year. It's a little bit of a spoof video. It's done with an element of creativity. It talks about the 10-year journey of Strategic. It talks around some of our successes and our wins and our losses and some of our tough times, and ultimately some of the things that we've done along the way to drive our growth. And while you're watching the video, I'd ask you to, as part of this video, I'd ask you to think about 3 questions. 1, what wasn't in our vision? So at Strategic, I'm passionate about making sure everyone's aligned to our vision, our values, like lots of organisations. We're not unique in that, but we're really clear about setting our vision and making sure everyone is aligned behind it as best we can. The second thing I'd like you to think about when you're watching the video is, where does Strategic's growth stop? So where do we believe our barriers are to growth? And also my business partner. There's a really lovely moment in the video, and James says something I believe is quite profound in terms of the reason that James joined the organisation at the time he did. And I think that, again, ties into this vision. So when you watch this next clip that will be embedded in, just think about those 3 things. What wasn't in our vision? Where does Strategic's growth stop? And why did James join Strategic? So we'll watch the video and see where we land. We're trying to do something that other agencies are so scared of. We're creating a genuinely integrated agency independently without external investment. And that was the first moment where I thought, oh, shit, this is real. You've got to come up with a proper plan. You've got to deliver it now. Everything we were doing in terms of piling the early success back into the business, and the gambles that we were taking with new offices or big salaries, were to build a business that people want to be part of, or build a brand that people want to be part of, to build a destination agency. What I had to learn really quickly is decision making. 50% of the decisions you make will be amazing. 50% will be bad.
I knew that whatever he would set his mind to, it would be a success and he would make it work.
I don't know, we weren't going to mess it up, because messing it up wasn't in our vision. James joining the business was a moment.
I was talking to people at Google in the UK, I was freelancing, but that opportunity to work with Andy, to realise that vision, to see it manifesting, that was just something I had to be part of.
You know, we had such a buzz, the team was really, really building.
I remember thinking this might be rock bottom. We might have to rebuild and we might have to start again.
I think initially it was disbelief, but a focus on, well, what happens next?
if you talk about what's our approach to the challenges, we're always getting challenges. 10 years in, and the challenges are going to continue. But we don't get consumed in the problem. We get consumed and obsessed with the solution. Some people look at our business and go, wow, it's amazing. I still look at our business and go, we're still here, we need to get there. I don't know where that stops. I don't know when we sit back and go, we've done it. StrategiQ will continue to develop the best people within our industry. We will partner with some of the world's most ambitious and exciting brands and organisations. We will continue to recruit the best strategic thinkers, marketing, creative and development geniuses that the industry has to offer. StrategiQ will be a globally recognised and admired agency. And we will be a destination agency, without a doubt. So hopefully you answered those questions, but or you picked up those questions in the video clip there. But the reality of it is, what wasn't in our vision, if you didn't pick it up, was failing. I think I used slightly different words, but not achieving our goals and our aspirations was just never an option. I think I said something slightly stronger in one of the cuts. Not messing it up with different words wasn't in our vision. Where does strategic growth stop? And the answer still now is I don't know. If that didn't come in the video, we're still pushing. We're still driving. We're driven by, as an agency or as an organisation, by being high expert. We're driven by achieving things that we didn't believe it was possible. So I don't even know what that line looks like at the moment, and I'm happy just leaning into that. And James joined the organisation because he believed in my vision for what an agency should, or why an agency should exist. We're both aligned. We have a common set of values and beliefs. We're completely different people. For those of you that, and I'm going to talk around insights at some part later, James and I are completely different in terms of our behaviours and our skill set, but we do align on our vision, and I think that makes it easy for the rest of the team and the rest of the company to get behind it, because they see two people that fundamentally are different individuals, but they align on a common set of values and beliefs, and they know why, and hopefully our clients feel that as well. They know the vision for the business. So hopefully you got those answers, but if you didn't, then that should have helped. So let's talk about sort of why me, and why now in terms of the conversation. Well, first and foremost, me personally, I don't underestimate or undervalue the importance of my role, A, when I'm working with a client, or B, when I employ someone at StrategiQ. Fundamentally, when someone joins StrategiQ, they put their businesses and their lives in our hands. And I think that comes with a level of responsibility that, unfortunately, you can't wake up in the morning and think, I don't feel up for it. Because that's part of a leader's responsibility to show growth. If a client walks in and goes, I've got a problem, you need to be able to have the energy for that solution. So the realization that growth isn't a choice and you have to drive growth is because people are relying on you. So that decision has almost taken away from us when we're in a service-led business or when we're a leader. I also believe that behaviour breeds behaviour, and positivity is infectious. As a leader, I believe I am responsible for the energy that comes into the business, or the energy that's not in the business. So there's two ways of looking at this. One of my, I suppose, most influential leaders or managers in the past said to me once, you can only be motivated 2 points above the person you're managing or leading. And at the time, I didn't really get it. I didn't really understand it. But the context for that is if I come to work and I'm a 10, it's realistic that I can expect my team to get to an 8 out of 10. If I come to work as a 4, the most I can expect the people to live up to is a 2. Now, naturally, you have different people that work for you that come out of bed, then people that jump out of bed and they're naturally motivated, they're inspired and they want to drive their lives forward. Those people are unique and they're lovely to be around. But some people need lifting, some people need energy. And you as a leader have to be 2 points above or can only expect people to be 2 points below. So it's a bit of an interesting concept for you to get your head around. But it stuck with me that I have to be an 8 minimum if I want people to be a 6. So my positivity, my energy, and the people I surround myself around, I feed off other people's energy. That's why I love people being in the office, because it gives everyone energy. But also, I get really upset and frustrated with low energy or negativity. And I think at some level we may all do. And it sort of leads into your mindset for the day. So for me, growth is about the mindset. It's also about decision making and how quickly you make decisions and how you potentially procrastinate on decisions. But it's also about the energy you bring. So just being aware of those 3 statements. Growth is about mindset. It's about the decision making. It's about the energy you bring. And again, another influential leader in my past, or one of my managers as I was going through sort of corporate world, it may have even come from a training course that I'd been on, but someone said to me once, and again, it's resonated, always be aware of the shadow you cast. And if you are walking around and your mindset and your positivity isn't leaning towards growth, it could affect those around you. The coffee room culture and the coffee room conversation always sticks with me. If you walk in to go and grab a coffee and your life is woe, and you're the leader, how are people supposed to be thinking about growth and driving your organisation forward if your life is woe? And I think that whilst that does take a lot of energy when you're leading a business and running a business and setting goals and setting aspirations, unfortunately, as I said in one of the slides previously, that's our responsibility. So being aware of the shadow you cast is another little kind of memory jogger to go, when I walk into the room as a leader, or when I'm setting my growth ambitions, at what level am I setting them at, and how am I helping people understand that this is possible, this is achievable? I have banned the word sentence from my vocabulary, and we have a bit of fun with this, and we definitely had a bit of fun with this in the presentations that we did in Portugal and subsequently in Helsinki, where I'm not too bad. It drives me crazy as a statement. It drives me crazy as a response to how are you, to a point where it's a bit of fun in the office. We have a lot of new starters over the year, and it's a natural. I don't know if it's an English thing. I just think it's a language thing. It's how are you? Yeah, I'm not too bad. There's a bit of fun in the office where a new starter, I'll walk in and say, hey, how you doing today? And you'll get the natural kind of, I'm new to the business. Yeah, I'm not too bad. And the whole agency will just laugh and fall over, and we have a bit of fun with it. But there's a serious context to that. Because if someone says to me, how are you? And I say, great, how are you? There's an energy that you get from that. If someone says, how are you? And I go, yeah, not too bad. There's an energy that you also get from that. And I think being aware of these behaviors, being aware of these mindsets, being aware of the energy that you bring fundamentally underpins growth. And I'm going to come more onto sort of business growth, but this is a mindset thing first. So for us to want to grow, for us to need to grow, for us to drive growth, we have to have a mindset that links towards growth, right? It's fairly logical. So how does this energy and attitude affect our organisations on a day-to-day basis? A lot of the stuff I've just spoken about is theory, right? A lot of that stuff, depending on where you land on it, can be annoying at its worst, but it could be motivational at its best. But from an organizational point of view, how does that affect strategic, and how has that driven our culture in a way that growth is possible and achieving more is possible? And hot off the press, in the last 4 weeks, we have been named winners of Campaign Best Places to Work 2024. So there's a shortlist, and we've been shortlisted, which is amazing for the organisation, right? In addition to that, we've been named within the Sunday Times top best places to work as well. So this stuff isn't theory. This stuff comes from our leadership team waking up, driving the organisation forward with the energy and the positivity and the growth mindset that has an end result. So if your leadership team is not looking at growth and is not looking at positivity, then there's an opportunity. All these awards do is kind of substantiate and give you tangible results for the attitude. But what's really interesting is we got our results back. And there are some really lovely telling stories in here about how choosing growth and how choosing mindset and how choosing how you act as a leader within your organisation or outside of your organisation, right? Every opportunity that you speak, you get to meet someone or interact with someone, if you're talking about growth and you're talking about opportunity, is infectious. But some of the stats here, or some of the feedback we get and the statistics that came out of that, are really powerful, i.e. Confidence in management, 93%. To have an organisation where across 60 people that completed the questionnaire, 93% of the people have confidence in management. That's because I believe of our decision making, our pace, our energy, our leadership, our growth. If as an organisation we were not growing and we were not choosing growth, I don't know if that confidence would be at the same level. If when you come in the morning, your management team and your leadership team are focused around a vision, are focused around a really clear set of, I would say, goals and values, then I don't know if that confidence would be there. Reward and recognition's high, information sharing, empowerment, well-being, instilling pride. That's an interesting one. Instilling pride. We're scoring excellent on the kind of 6 steps to happiness in the workplace. So there is a tangible output for this methodology and this thinking that I'm talking about here in terms of growth being a choice. So we come back to the purpose of the presentation. It's around you choose growth, right? You choose your energy. You choose how you wake up in the morning. You choose how you deal with negativity and choose how you bring energy into your organisation. But what I've realised is that people are different, okay? And we spoke about James, my business partner, we're different people. We bring a different energy. That doesn't mean to say my energy is better than James's or worse than James's, just we bring a different energy. So if we talk about being programmed for growth, what does that actually mean? Well, I'm blessed with a makeup or a decision-making process without fear of loss. And where that comes from is, I guess, founding a business and starting a business from nothing means that you can achieve it again. So the fear of knowing that you've built something means that you can build it again. And I guess we learned that, and talking back to the time in the video when we're all as business owners probably had some really tough times where you might have been choosing growth, but it might not have been there. And I suppose the pandemic is a good example of that. You then go back to a place where you can make good decisions. But if you're constantly worrying about the consequence of a decision, you can get into paralysis and therefore the moment's gone. So I'm lucky in that way because I don't necessarily overanalyze the decision-making process. So growth for me isn't a choice, it is what drives me. And we sort of lean into here some work that we do around insights discovery. And for those of you aware of Jung's psychological types, we have 2 attitudes, 4 functions, and 8 attitudinal functions in insights. And it kind of looks like a colour wheel. So top left is very high expert. And in fact, if you keep this really simple, above the line is thinking, below the line is feeling. To the left the line is introvert, to the right of the line is extrovert. So for those of you that know insights, you've probably picked up already that I'm red dominant in my colour, which means that I think a lot about the decisions I make, but I'm an extrovert in my decision making. James, on the other hand, business partner, he thinks a lot of the decision he makes, and he's high introvert led. So there's a different decision making. Doesn't mean he's right or wrong, or I'm right or wrong. It just means that it helps me make decisions without fear of loss, but it doesn't mean I don't think about the decision making. Now, the reason this is really important as part of the presentation is that it's nice to understand that. And what I've learned over the time in terms of leadership is understanding insights, understanding our decision-making profile, understanding our behaviours means that we can choose the trajectory in the decision-making process, and also the growth trajectory we want to push. Therefore, if I come to our attitudes and our behaviours within our team, and this is quite an interesting exercise to go through if you haven't gone through it. This is a moment in time within StrategiQ's business where you can see that our business was made up of high blue, thinking introverts. You generally get this in marketing, especially within sort of technical marketing, high development, high SEO functioning teams. Client services generally are the green, which is the supporting coordinator. You get the creative team, and then you get this lonely person top right, which was me at the time, which was the director with high decision making, growth. And this is understanding that functionality means that I talk a lot about growth and I drive growth. If you've got people within your industry, if you've got people within your organization, which are high introvert and high thinking, your decision making might be different, and therefore maybe slower, might be a bit more cautious than if you have everyone in a leadership team that might be a director or a motivator led. The trick is to get some balance in your decision making. So growth is great, driving growth is great, making growth a choice is great, but making sure you also have balanced decision making around growth, so it's not gung-ho and it's not going to kill your business is really important as well. But the message here within this section is making sure you understand the importance of your decision making process. So and your team dynamics make a decision making process. Where I see businesses potentially struggling at the moment is they may be overthinking the decision-making process. They may be overthinking growth. They may be thinking too much about the economy, and it's going, right, this is the time to do it. Let's do it now. And there may be some lessons there. So we have to understand our drivers to grow. But why is it important now? The macroeconomics in most industries are challenging. And some businesses are making really sensible decisions just to calm down and not necessarily lean into growth too aggressively. Other businesses are going, right, now's the opportunity to grow market share. I talk and have talked around the sort of perfect storm analogy, and it's only relatable because of the video and the if you've seen the video with George Clooney and the perfect storm, it talks around an ecological event where the perfect storm was created by 3 weather fronts coming together in the Atlantic at the key moment in time, and it created the perfect storm. Where I've layered the business analogy over this is there are 3 key drivers to business success or growth. And at the moment, if we see things like a slowdown in supply or demand, what generally happens is we get an increase in competition. If we get an increase in competition because more of your competitors are competing for less work, what generally happens is your margins are squeezed. And not having a strategy or not being aware of that and letting that effectively take over your business without a plan or an approach to combat that could be detrimental. And I think that's an important analogy for us to realise that if supply and demand does slow down for your business, what can you do to increase supply and demand? Product, service, how can you drive value? How can you drive growth? Are you just going to accept that there's going to be a slowdown in supply and demand for your product, or are you going to go at it and try and find more? Are you going to let your competition come after and take your client base, or are you going to fight? Or are you going to go on the offensive and actually go and try and get some of your market share from your competition? And also, what are you going to do to protect your margins? How is your client services team responding to the demands of your clients? And how are you changing your service offering to provide more value? All of these things are growth tactics. The perfect storm is just a way of really making sure people understand that you can navigate your way through it, and you don't just have to be consumed by the event. You can fight back. So we talk about taking action, and so therefore how? What tactics can we use to take action, and what do we do? So within the presentation, we went through an exercise where I got the audience to close their eyes. Might be a bit weird over video to go through that process. Some of you may choose to do that. But the questions that I asked the audience when we did the presentation live was, visualize your life, your career, or your business in 5 years. So we go through a process with everyone in our team at Strategic and within most clients of going, what do you want your business to look like? What's the value of your business now? What do you want that value to be in 5 years? And that's the visionary stuff, right? Because there's so many variables that can happen in 5 years in people's lives, careers, and businesses. But actually then what we do is we refine that into a 3-year plan, a 3-year vision, gets a bit more detailed. Then we put it into a year and it gets even more detailed. Then we put it into a quarter and it gets more detailed. Then we put it into daily tasks. And if you're not doing that within your organization or within your life now, there's an opportunity to. And I would strongly recommend that visualize what you want your output to be, visualize what you want your business to look like, and then work back from 5 to 3 to 1 to the quarter to the day. It's a really great exercise to go through. But if you do visualize, if you do set that vision out, there's some other questions that sort of come off the back of it. What are the tangible things? Not everyone is driven by income. Not everyone is driven by the value of their business. Some businesses now are really leaning into sustainability and what they want their business to look like, not just on a revenue basis. And I think it's important to make this point now that growth doesn't have to mean revenue. Growth to me means revenue because I'm highly motivated by growth in that way. But we've also got a big piece of work happening within the business at the moment around our sustainability, and we've got to grow into that. See what growth looks like. It could be income, it could be value of the business, which pretty much are aligned, but you need to know what success looks like. So you've got a vision, you've started to identify what that growth would look like, you've started to identify what success would look like. Then start to think about what's the gap. So from today, where are you versus where you want to be? And if you choose a year, if you choose 3 years, if you choose 5 years, that's your prerogative. They should really link up to the 5-year vision if you're following that methodology. But sometimes you can just do it for a year. But what's the gap? Then identify what's getting in your way. Go through the process of what's stopping us. Is it you? Is it your skill set? Is it your knowledge within your team? Is it the attitude? Is it the culture? Have you just come away from a growth mindset and you think that's one of the things we're always thinking about what could be the worst case scenario? Maybe we should think about what is the best case scenario. But identify what's getting in your way. And there's another lovely process to go through, and I do this a lot with the team individuals when we're talking about life goals and career goals. What are the 3 things you're going to sacrifice in order to make that happen? How are you going to drive that growth? How are you going to drive that vision? But what are you going to sacrifice? Because generally it's going to come with something. It's going to come possibly with time. It's going to come with some fairly big decisions that you're going to have to realise that to drive growth within your organisation is going to be some big decision changes, and what you're going to sacrifice and how you're going to drive it forward. This is the real stuff about setting the plan and choosing, whether or not you want to grow your organisation or whether or not you're going to let the perfect storm happen to you or you're within your business. So there's a process we go through and a number of phases, and we've just touched on some of the approaches there. First thing, basic stuff. When you have got that vision, make sure you set it and you align everyone. And you've got to be obsessed about it. It's got to be a real vision for you as a leader, for you as a manager, for you as an individual. You've got to be obsessed about it. Choose something that you're genuinely passionate about. For Strategic, we've aligned everyone behind a simple messaging framework, and our vision is to be a destination agency for clients and talent. What does that actually mean? When we went through this process, the thing that drives our growth, the things that decides or defines my decision-making process as a leader is, how do I create an agency where people want to be part of? How do I create an agency where clients are proud to say we work with Strategic? How do I create an agency that people say I'm proud to work with or would love to work for? How do we attract the top talent within our industry? So that's the top level sort of vision. But then off the back of that, you have to have a promise that you're going to make in order to deliver that. And ours that we've worked around as a group is to impact lives beyond the day job. So people that work with us, what can we do to try and have a bigger impact on people's lives? And that could be client, because their growth aspirations or the value of their business or where they want to take the business. But it could be something as, an exec joining the company at the start of their career. How are we going to take them on a journey? How does that make a bigger impact on their life? We have to be, for us at Strategic, we have to set a mission that sort of stands us out by leaning into some of our values and beliefs, i.e. to be the strategic difference. We're a strategic partner for the clients that we work with, therefore we have to make a difference when people work with us. So we've got a value set that sits around that. And finally, our belief has always been and is that you should always have a strategy, whether that's a life strategy, whether that's a business strategy, but not having a sense of direction, not having a purpose is going to undermine your ability to grow the organisation. So we're talking about growth as a choice, but our value set and our vision that I've engaged everyone in the agency behind is to make sure that our clients always have a strategy towards that. You could almost say our belief is growth is always based on a strategy, but it's a slightly different presentation. Phase 2, after you've got everyone behind the organisation, vision and goals and growth, and you've set that in your own mind, we have a situation now of making that a situation. Let's go back because you're going to need to edit that. The second thing we do at Strategic that helps us deliver our growth plan and our growth setting phase is to make sure it's visualized at all times. To make sure that everyone in the organisation has their individual plan that's aligned to their department plan, that's aligned to the company plan, and everyone knows where we're going. But we keep it visual, we keep it centralised. We've developed our own system and our own, what we call our operating system, in order for anyone at any given time to understand where we're going as an organisation and how they can play part of it. If you're not doing that as part of your growth plan as an organisation, there's an opportunity for you. And I would say if you go through the process of saying, I want to grow my organisation, I want to grow my business, I'm going to align everyone behind that vision, and then I'm going to have to make it visual for everyone, and I'm going to need to share it at every given time. So I've got some top tips now that I shared as part of the presentation to the agency network and subsequently other organisations I've done this presentation for and to. is what are some of the basic principles that we do at Strategic, I've done at Strategic, that's driven our growth. And I touched on it at the very start around sort of the decisions we made 6 months ago that are influencing where our business is now. And ultimately the things I'm doing today within the organisation that are influencing where we're going to be in 6 months' time. But some top tips, some are a little bit more random than others, but things that I've learned over time. And the first one is, a part of decision making actually, stop trying to hire great people. Your growth is going to come from the people that are around you. You have to create great people. And when you have got great people and you see raw talent, harness that talent, grow that talent, support that talent, you'll get rewarded from that. Stop waiting for the perfect employee. Stop waiting for the perfect person. You know, if you're interviewing, 20 people for a role, the chances are that you might have to hire some behaviours and hire some attitudes and train the knowledge and skill. We hear that a lot within business, hire attitude, train knowledge and skill. Don't wait for great people, create them. But also, don't surround them by average people. One thing I've learned over the time within running Strategic and other organisations in my career is, you can have the best person in the world, but if they're surrounded by people that don't share their passion, their energy, it can suppress whatever growth aspirations you've got. Your people are going to drive that. So top tip, stop trying to hire great people. Don't wait. You create the people, you create the culture, and you have to surround your good people with great people. Don't surround your great people with average people. It will frustrate the hell out of them. Bit contentious. 2, understand your own drivers and motivators. Increase your self-awareness of your decision-making process. It doesn't matter if you're high-thinking introvert blue, but just be aware of that and understand how that's going to affect your decision-making process. But make decisions. One of the biggest lessons I learned early on in running an agency or running a business is 50% of the decisions I make are going to be bad, 50% are going to be right or good, I would hope. Celebrate the decisions that you make that are successful and forget about the ones and change them quickly that were bad. And that's it. There's no more than that. But understand your decision-making process, but also understand your drivers and motivators. Good tip. I just lent into that, but the third, stop waiting for the moment, accept the 50% success rate on your decision. Make a decision. Yeah, if you're running a business, you're probably making 50 to 100 decisions a day. Just make them, move on, to celebrate the successful ones. But accept the success rate of 50%. You'll sleep better. Set some goals. Put some lines in the sand. I'm assuming people watching this in business or in life will have goals, but if you haven't, get some. And I know there's methodologies around making them smart, but fundamentally set a goal, be obsessed by it and make it happen. And the 5th one, align all your personal company goals to your weekly, monthly and annual communication. Keep everyone aligned. Once you've set your growth trajectory, once you've agreed that you're going to accept growth, once you know that you're going to drive an organisation's growth, communicate consistently, make sure people are personally rewarded and professionally awarded in that process, make sure people feel part of that, but communicate everything weekly, monthly and annually, and just keep that consistent. And finally, don't accept average. It's fucking boring. If you're going to drive an organisation forward, if you're going to think about growth, and you want to drive an organisation's growth, as I said right at the start of this presentation, it will come from your energy, it will come from your passion, it will come from your commitment, it will come from your vision. And if you've got average in your organisation, train it, but don't accept it, and have some fun. This would naturally move into a Q&A session, which it did, which went on one of the presentations. It went on for an hour because there's some stuff in here that's quite contentious, quite opinionated. I'm conscious of that. But follow the link, reach out, direct message me, create a discussion, create a debate. Happy to be challenged on any of the points I've made here. This is coming from a place of I've messed up a lot, and I've gone through periods in business when we haven't grown to the level that I expected or wanted. But we have had probably, and are heading towards probably our most successful year as an agency, and it's because we're constantly driving for growth, we're constantly driving for improvement, and average is boring. So hopefully you've taken one or two pieces of wisdom from the presentation. Yeah, good luck with growth, and it is a choice. Just choose. Thanks very much.